And the call will be shared with the Cleanup Organizer Network afterwards. It'll likely be shared tomorrow, Wednesday. And the purpose, if this is the first time you're joining, welcome. The purpose of our monthly calls is to get together, share ideas, ask questions, and solve cleanup related problems. As you know, this is kind of a very niche thing that we're doing. And so having the opportunity to ask our peers questions and share notes is fantastic. So the cleanup, I'm hearing some feedback, but I'm not sure if it's me or someone else. Oh, all right, I think it went away. So post cleanup celebrations is our topic of choice. And there were a lot of great questions in the chat or in the RSVP form. So thank you guys for submitting those. And I just want to kind of dive into those questions. So opening the floor up, the first question is, what does your after cleanup celebration look like?
Is that question just posed to anybody?
Yeah, anyone.
I'll go first since I spoke up. This is Will Bassard from the Confluences. We're a nonprofit that operates here in Denver, Colorado. And I'm excited to hear everybody else's after cleanup celebrations. Ours is pretty fun, I would say. But we get a bunch of sponsors who donate giveaways, probably 30 or more. The county always donates a bunch of random stuff like umbrellas and pickup bags and gloves and whatnot. But there's a ton of stuff that we give away at the end for prizes such as largest item, most bottles picked up, just a bunch of different contests. And then we also have like Denver Beer Company or a Great Divide, I'm sorry, sponsors us with beers, and Denver Water supplies us with water, and there's things like that. So at the end, there's lunch, and that's also sponsored, and drinks and giveaways, and it keeps people there and keeps people engaged, and I think it helps bring people back.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to share?
Hi, I guess I have a follow-up question to that. So about 30 or more sponsors, that seems like a lot for a cleanup, like just because our organization, for instance, goes for, that number or twice that number for our big Riverfest event each year. And it seems like going for that for a cleanup too would be a lot of ask for us. So I just want to see if it's just because your organization has a larger staff, more events, or like why you have 30 sponsors.
Right now it's just me. But I kind of spend the first or the 2 months before our annual cleanup reaching out to local businesses, and some people donate, like a $25 gift card or, a book. It's everything from restaurant gift certificates to big items like a fly rod and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'm just lucky or persuasive, but yeah, it's once a year for our big one, so that probably helps. And we also promote the heck out of them on social media and flyers and banners and things like that. So maybe that helps.
Yeah, that helps to know that that's your big event.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share their post cleanup celebration? Lisa?
Yes. I was also impressed by William's amount of sponsors for this event, but right, for our event, it's in the spring, And we usually have our picnic at a state park. So unfortunately that eliminates the alcohol, which would keep people around longer, but they have grills, and so it's easy parking, facilities, bathroom facilities right there. So we do a picnic style. We just grill burgers, dogs, truly have picnic stuff. We try to get as much of the food donated as possible. So that's where I would say our in-kind sponsors are. And we don't give out prizes, but we do have like poster boards around that we have what's the weirdest thing you've found. And so it gives a lot of conversation for people to write down on there. And then we take a picture of that and use that in our social media. And it does give people reason to, have conversations with each other about the trash and what they found. And a lot of people just to hang out for a couple hours. It really all is weather dependent, as I'm sure you all know. We had to cancel our event this year because of weather, which was the first time ever in over 50 years. So it was kind of sad. But it rained and rained and rained and rained. So the creek was not safe for anything. But yeah, I will say in COVID year where people just went out and did it on their own when they could, we did get some of our sponsors to donate like tabling items. So for example, sunscreen, wipes, hand sanitizer, small items that they had that were branded. And we typically don't always do that at the picnic, but some of our larger sponsors that donate more money, they can have a table at the event and they will bring items. But it's really just a picnic. We have music. The music is much appreciated. It's just a 200-person picnic or more.
Thanks, Lisa, for sharing. Before we kind of dive into, I know that there's a lot of people have questions about like sponsors and getting some of that snack and in-kind donations for your celebration. I do want to share that American Rivers has a fundraising resource guide. You can find it in our organizer handbook. And then also, I think it is actually linked out specifically on our website, and we update that at least quarterly with new stuff and editing, removing any stuff that's no longer available. I'll give you a sneak peek of what that kind of looks like. This is the organizer handbook, what it looks like in here, and it talks about basically give some tips on anyone, if this is the first time that you're going down this route and asking people to donate, whether it's sunscreen, snacks, anything like that. This is a great kind of place to dip your toes in. And then also if you're kind of very experienced, you might find some new stuff in here too. Some of the businesses that we mentioned are regional or national or local. And so hopefully there's something in there for everyone. If you know a company or something like a tip that we should include in here, please let me know and we'll add it. So we go into kind of financial and in-kind donations, services and supplies. American Rivers, we provide free trash bags if you need it. And then there's some supermarkets, so if you want to get snacks for that. And then other snack donations and just general kind of support. So yeah, so that's a possibility. And then if you also want to talk through how to even set that up for a post cleanup celebration or even how to make those asks, just let me know. I'm happy to talk through that with you, that entire process. Okay, so the next question is sort of like the previous one, but I think I want to still ask it anyways. How do you show appreciation to your volunteers? So for me, for the cleanups that I plan, and Will also mentioned that he does this, is kind of recognizing sometimes we don't have prizes to give out to people, but we do, at the end, as we're thanking everyone, we do kind of do a comparison. Everyone kind of votes and sees who collected the biggest piece of trash or the most unique, and we kind of go through a voting thing of like, okay, which piece is more strange or unique than others, and so and kind of giving recognition to that person for their efforts. We also do like a few social media posts and sometimes blogs featuring a volunteer, and so that's another way that we show appreciation to them after the cleanup.
This isn't exactly appreciation, but it kind of is. After our cleanup, and after our picnic lunch, we take the people. One of our places that we do our cleanups is the Ouray Ice Park, and so a lot of people don't really get to go in there on a regular basis, or maybe even not at all year, especially in this good weather. And so we give them a tour of the park with the park staff, so it gives them an opportunity to ask their own questions and see parts of the park that they wouldn't otherwise be able to.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that idea. It's kind of like a unique VIP experience, and it's not something that's generally offered to anyone. So that's very cool. Has anyone tried some sort of celebration or thank you and it wasn't as successful as you were hoping, or basically you found something else was more successful than the other? I think sharing ideas that weren't as successful is helpful too.
It's interesting. I think different things are successful in different places, right? Because
Yeah.
we tried a picnic thing, like just the barbecue in the park thing, and nobody came. Like they just, went home afterwards or whatever. I think maybe that's not true for like I think a long time ago, maybe people came more consistently. So I don't know. We're actually looking at doing monthly cleanups and maybe just having like a social gathering after each one that we aren't even necessarily sponsoring, or maybe we work to get discount or something, but like, hey, we're cleaning up by this pizza place, let's all go there afterwards for lunch, or we're cleaning up by this brewery, let's all go there, but maybe a little less structured. I don't know if anybody has feedback on that idea.
Yeah, I would echo what was said earlier. If you're not doing the celebration where everybody starts from, it's tricky to keep people around. Like I attended one, I didn't do this one, but attended one where the celebration was at a brewery or something of the likes, a ways away, and even I was just like, man, I gotta go home. So it wasn't as well attended, I would say. They did, they did get discounts for people in the cleanup, but when you try to move people from one place to another and they're worn out and they're gross, they kind of want to go home. So that's tricky.
Yeah, I'll echo that too. I found that if you are going to a secondary location, it can be tough. I know that and they're not on this call, but there is the Grand Mayor's cleanup that happens outside of Grand Rapids every year, and they have like the 5 mayors of the surrounding cities come out and speak, and it's like a big deal, and they have like all these cleanup sites, and everyone meets at one site and they all park together, and they actually have shuttles, like buses that drive people to the cleanup site and then they shuttle them back. And so that's a unique case where going to 2 different locations where it does work out because that's where everyone parked. But in other circumstances, I've done it where we went to a secondary location and you do lose some people that way. So just something to keep in mind. And you might even, again, some stuff works for some people and then it doesn't work for others, and it kind of just depends on your community members. And so this might be an opportunity to survey and ask them, what would you like to see in a thank you celebration? And that might give you some new ideas too. And it would be catering to the personalities of your volunteers. How to fund cleanup celebrations. So we kind of dabbled in this, but does anyone want to share how they fund their cleanup celebrations?
For us, it's always been donation. I think in that thing you had up earlier, that guidebook, I always started with like the company I worked for, and then consultants that I've worked with, or the bank that I bank at, the dealership that I had bought a car at before. Just start with those people that you already have a relationship with, and depending on how big your cleanup is, I mean, if you've got 200 people, that's, times $10 a plate, that's $2,000. So you're gonna have to really get on it. But if it's only 100, and you can whittle that down a little bit, it's not as daunting a task. But yeah, like even asking a local pizzeria, or like you said, supermarket, sometimes they're willing. Their supermarkets are tough because I think they get a lot of requests, but yeah, that's how I've done it in the past. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Hi, I might add kind of what we do. I'm Teresa McGady. I'm with the city of Dayton, and we clean up the Great Miami River. It's a large river, and we clean up from the headwaters all the way to its confluence with Ohio River. But I coordinate the sections through the city of Dayton, and as a whole collective, we have a lot of sponsors. But for our sections, in Dayton, I am able to get a food truck that donates food. They're a bigger company. They're known as a Sugar Creek Packaging Company, but they'll come and they supply food for all of our 100+ volunteers. So it's worked out really well. I'm super grateful for them to come out and feed all the volunteers, really just on goodwill and wanting to do something for the community and give back. So having that relationship has been key. For us in the past, we've gone and we've paid for them to have pizza or something, and we've had to pay for that. So it's great being able to partner with a food truck and have them provide lunch to the volunteers.
Yeah, I've done food trucks too. I do not recommend, if you're gonna pay full price, don't do it, because it's gonna be like a couple $1,000s, even if it's just 25 people. So if you can definitely get a major discount, highly recommend. And like barbecue places, local pizza, I think pizzerias, that's a great idea. Whole Foods could even be a possibility. When you do, like Will was saying, when you do get into the grocery stores, you have to apply. So you can't kind of just like show up in person to the store and have a conversation with the manager, which I feel like I'm best at doing that. I'm like, if they can just talk to me, they'll be like, okay, this sounds great. And I never get picked if I apply, basically. So but if you're lucky that way, and even just try it anyways, because you might you have no idea how many requests they're getting. Some stores might get very little, and some might have a huge volume, and so might as well, it's worth it to try it out. And the grocery store applications are pretty short in my experience, so it shouldn't take you more than like 5 minutes.
Madeline, I might add to that too, that I found kind of figuring out their funding schedule, because I'd reached out to we've got Kona Ice. I don't know if that's a national thing or if they're just here in our area, but I'd reached out to them about donating some of the shaved ice for the volunteers, but they take all their applications for the year, like in February. So I've already put it on my calendar for next year to reach out to them in February to see if they'll be willing to come out.
Great ideas. The next question is how to bring volunteers into, so celebrating them, but then bringing them, I guess, converting them over to regular volunteers or other kind of volunteer opportunities that are happening. I always have like a list of volunteer opportunities that are happening like upcoming, and even have a sign up form that's available on site. So if you do have your next cleanup happening, just print out a sheet, put write whatever the information is on it, and that's an easy, doesn't take a lot of work. Then you can have already start your sign up list. And then I also mentioned it in my opening remarks. Anyone else have thoughts or want to share?
Yeah, it's Lisa, and I'd just say I'm with Wissahickon Trails. We're in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I didn't say that before. So we manage the Wissahickon Creek in Montgomery County part of the state of Pennsylvania. But I ditto that. We send a follow-up email with photos and links to all other opportunities, like within a day or two after the event. And then those people are on our list because they've already signed up. So they've said yes to our list. So they're on our list for all volunteer opportunities, and our programs, and to make donations. So they, until they unsubscribe, they're getting everything from us. And we have seen people definitely climb that ladder of engagement from one time to, you know, maybe being a crew leader or, you know, a conservate part of our regular conservation people, volunteers that are out all the time. So, but communication and personal emails as well, I should say, not just the blasts, but our volunteer coordinator sends it from himself as well, so that it's a combo of news and then personal touches.
Yeah, great ideas. Next question is, for organizations that do giveaways at their celebrations, do you get something for everyone, or do you have a few bigger gifts, and then either give them out randomly or based on volunteer performance? And I do air quotes for that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Barry. Yes.
Um, we have a coffee company and they donate bags of coffee as a
Oh,
giveaway. And some other things I can't recall right now. I'm brand new at the river cleanup organizer. I've been on several, Buffalo National River in Arkansas, and but I'm now the coordinator, and so I'm looking forward to it. And I had a question, or I know I took RSVP to this. You had a Google form, so I've been working on a Google form to email volunteers and glean information like, do they need a canoe? Are they going to use a concessionaire's canoe? Do they have a paddle partner? Do they need shuttles? Things like that. Who is that something someone can elaborate on, like some questions that might be important in that Google form?
oh yeah. So are you looking at for like questions for like individuals that are already getting out? I guess it depends on what kind of like information, the use of the information you're going to be, what are you going to be using this information for? So are you going for like the canoe question? Are you going to be providing them canoes, or are you just kind of collecting general information on just to see what people are doing?
Yeah, we usually have a concessionaire that donates that 10 to 12. We'll have 30 people volunteer, sometimes 40. And so we only have a limited number of canoes. And then that gives me an idea of who needs to bring their own canoe.
Gotcha.
And that's what, ask the question, are you bringing your own canoe?
Yeah.
So it kind of gets to be a sticking point because you run out of canoes and, what do you do? So It's just kind of a question I'm coming from. Right there.
Well, definitely life jackets, unless you already have, unless that's like connected one like together. Trash bags, if they're gonna bring their own reusable water bottle, like if they'll need water on site. What else? Are they carpooling or do they need they need a ride or can they get there themselves? Are they bringing kids? And is there like an age limit, that kind of thing? Can they sign the liability waiver in advance or do they need to sign it there on the day of? Those are just things I'm off the top of my head, but happy if you want to send me like your list of questions, I'm happy to take a look at them and add in others that I think of. And you can also post on the Facebook page or the Facebook group. And I'm sure others will can chime in too.
I've got just real quick, because you brought up waivers. One of the things we did this year, and I don't know how comfortable people feel with it, but we decided that we were comfortable with it, was when people register, we have online registration for some things, and cleanups can be one of them. When they register, it says, by registering, I agree to the terms and conditions of the waiver. So that, like we're getting them there instead of hard copy signing a waiver. And then the other thing, what was it, the original thing that you were just asking about? Like we were on one topic and then we sort of,
Oh, about the giveaways.
oh, when we have grants, we don't usually do giveaways unless we have a grant or a donation. But when we do, we try and get something that has a point of decision reminder on it and has some value, and then we give it to everybody. So that's like totally based on a grant.
Mhm.
But like we did that Ohio litter grant from Ohio EPA, and we bought those reusable straws, and it says, please reuse this straw. And then we also bought, I don't usually like t-shirts, so we did a mix of t-shirts and hats, but we did ones that were really brightly colored so that it was more of a safety thing. And they had things like keep Cuyahoga clean and, different things that people that they'd be like a walking billboard, like, oh, what does that mean? So we try and do things that'll either catch somebody's interest so they'll actually spread the word about stream cleanups, or something like the straws that are actually reusable and can help reduce waste.
Great ideas. Thank you, Jackie. Is there anyone else that wanted to share about whether they do a few bigger gifts or if they steer towards giving everyone something as a thank you?
We have a couple of donors who like donate one larger product, but then they have a bunch of stickers that everybody can just take, like if they're on the table. Or there's also, we team up with a magazine called The Drake, and it's a fly fishing magazine, but they always have a bunch of back issues that if you want one, you can take one. And I think Denver Water, I'm not 100% sure since it's our first year to use them, but they have a lot of literature that they hand out if you want it. Because I'm kind of with you on the t-shirt, whoever that was. I don't like just giving away stuff just to give it away because it's just more litter. It's like a one-time use thing. So try to steer clear of that. But yeah, those are all good ideas for sure.
Great. Lillian, I'm gonna call you out. You had a very long question, or several questions that I really loved. I don't know if you're able to speak, but your questions were on post cleanup celebrations for large scale cleanups for multiple sites across the county, and having and we did touch a little bit on this. There's an echo. Lillian, are you there? Are you able to speak? If not, I'll read your question.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't trying to run away. I went into a pod and I disconnected from the internet. Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So your question was great, and we did touch a little bit on this already, but I think it's a great just question in general. Your question was around post cleanup celebrations for large scale events or multiple sites that are spread across the county, and is there an effective way to have a cleanup celebration for multiple cleanup sites, and have it led by various volunteers and or city organization partners, and how it would work if you had some experience and some of them as amateur site coordinators, and how that kind of works. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way that we run our cleanups is a little different because we are an agency. So it's really difficult for us to get any sponsorships of sorts. Giveaway items are also difficult because they're looking for nonprofits. And we already supply all of our sites. We have about 40 to 50 sites with all of the supplies they need. So all the grabbers, gloves, and whatnot. And that's already a big chunk of money for us to pay. And so we don't have a celebration at the end. We also have all the sites spread out across the county, which makes it difficult for us to try to call back any volunteers to a central site or even multiple sites. A lot of our site coordinators are members of the public, so they're not necessarily volunteers that are dedicated volunteers with our organization or agency. They're new people that we train in every year. They may not necessarily have the bandwidth to kind of host a celebration or try to get those volunteers to join into another site. So that kind of shuttle system was really interesting, but I don't think we have the bandwidth to set up something like that. So I was wondering if there are any other organizations that work on a county scale, and if they have any success in doing some sort of celebration afterwards.
So we are, we're not a county agency, but we're a division of the state as a soil and water conservation district. And what we have done is we have friends groups. So we have a Friends of Euclid Creek group and a Rocky River Watershed Partnership. And so those are the nonprofits, and they run the celebrations after. So they get the donations and they have the celebration afterwards. And I was in a part of where I was on the friends group side of that in a couple different organizations. So I've seen how it works before, and it works really well. Plus, then you have volunteers. A lot of times that friends group will actually do the cooking, and maybe somebody it widens your network. So there's might be a public official or somebody in there that'll say, oh, you can use our public park or our pavilion, we'll rent it for you. So that's the way that we've found works really well for public agencies.
Kelly, I think I saw you also raised your hand or wanted to speak. We can't hear you, Kelly. It's every week, every month. For those that just joined us, we are talking about how to have a post cleanup celebration for large scale cleanups or the ones that are multiple sites across. So Shanna and Steve, I saw that you just joined, so I wanted to kind of bring you in on the conversation. One idea that I have that I haven't done like some of these like multiple, like I probably have only done maybe 5 sites at most all at the same time. But I think if you give them a post celebration kind of layout, like a template of like, here's like the thank you remarks you'll do. Here's how you would run if you did have a giveaway or stickers or whatever, or want to just recognize people. You could have some like sort of like just language that walks them through, and they could just kind of read off that and follow that kind of template, and then guide the volunteers, be like, hey, we're going to just sit around this picnic table and discuss and share, and want everyone to kind of gather around and take a picture. And then you could also, if you do have snacks, giving those snacks to the site leaders, and that could be kind of the post cleanup celebration. So you still have that aspect of camaraderie at the end and celebration at the end of the event, without having to kind of put a lot of work into it, I think, if you wanted to do it on a smaller scale and low key. Or you could have, I know that some, I don't think they're on the call right now, but another organizer or maybe multiple have said that they've gone like discounts or coupons to local breweries, and those were given out as thank yous to the volunteers, and everyone would just kind of be like, hey, we're going to meet up at this place at the end. And I think you would want to have to make it effective, you'd want the leader of each cleanup site to be attending that cleanup celebration at the end. I think it would just be way more effective. They're more likely to bring other people along with them, and carpool there, and just doing that kind of encouragement. So those are just some ideas I have off the top of my head. Lillian, I know you had some other questions about, so for those that do a central site for a cleanup celebration, what is the typical turnout that you have? If it's not like immediately after the event at the same location, if you're going to somewhere else, what would be the turnout? Not sure if anyone on here has that advice.
I could maybe offer a little bit. So we do 3 different sections, and then the one section is where I have the lunch. So the other 2 sections have to come to the other location. I did lose a few, I would say, but I would say still there was probably 80% of the volunteers that showed up. Some of them actually, they were close enough that they could just walk. It was a decent amount of walk, but some would just walk to that park where we were at. And then there was a good amount of parking at the park, so we had a number of people just drive there. But I would say 80% of them came.
Great, thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, I'll also say we have a lot of sections, but we're in I would say we're a 64 square mile watershed. We certainly don't go that far out on the cleanup day, but I'd say everybody was within 10 miles, and we have probably 40 some sections, but each section might have anywhere from 5 to 20 people. We have about 500 volunteers that will sign up to clean all on that one day, and we get about 200 at the picnic. So, and then again, we watch weather, because if it's in April, if it ends up as a 50-degree colder day, we get less people. If it's 100-degree day, we get less people. I also know whether we order coffee or not, or get it donated. But that's been our average, because we've done this for many, many years, and that has been our average. Even post-COVID, I guess we've had 1 year of that, and it was still about the same.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. For those celebrations that, this is a question that when Will was on the phone, he mentioned, actually still on the phone, but when people are tired, sunburned, and feeling tired and just want to kind of go home instead of cleaning up, and cleaning up, they're done everything instead of like kind of staying around lingering, how would you pivot your celebration? Would you wrap up early? Would you still go through with the entire thing? Would you nix maybe, like maybe you knew it was going to be really, really hot, so maybe you make it shorter than it typically was or planned for?
I think we've just been lucky on our end as far as weather goes. I'm sure we'll get a year that's not as pleasant, but yeah, I think just having everything at the end and giving away some big stuff always keeps people there. So
Yeah, I think as long as you kind of keep like keep a finger on like the pulse of everyone and how they're feeling during the event, I think that you'll be able to get a sense. I just kind of go with my gut feeling, and which is probably not very effective, but that's all I know. Whether I might have a really strong EQ, and that's why I can kind of sense where everyone's at and see if like, okay, I kind of sense whether they want to wrap up sooner than later. And then also I take into account breaks too. That's like another kind of time to celebrate and bring out the snacks, the food that you might have been saving to the end, but you could bring them out then too, to kind of keep the energy up.
somebody just wrote no fee raffle giveaway. That's we always for whoever shows back up after the cleanup, we hand out tickets because there's a bunch of little stuff to give away. Good call on that.
Oh, that's a good idea. So those are all the questions that I have for or that you all submitted for the post cleanup celebration. Did you guys have any other questions that you wanted to ask or ideas to share, anything like that, that either has to do with the topic or it could be something completely different?
Hi, so while we don't have the post cleanup celebrations, we do a year-end celebration type volunteer recognition event that covers a lot of our volunteer programs and the events that we do throughout the year. But we don't get a lot of turnout from just general volunteers. Usually it's the site coordinators who are recognizing they're bringing their family. Does anybody do anything similar, kind of like a year-end type volunteer recognition?
This is Lisa again. I will say we try to do a summer because that is usually a month. In fact, we're doing it in a week volunteer picnic. It's very informal, very casual, and we typically get our like you would say it's your leaders, but our core volunteers, the ones that we see volunteer over and over again or have a more investment in our organization. So, but we also do it in summer so that we can do it outside if the weather holds. This year we renovated our offices, so I don't know, we might get more people this year just because they want to see what it looks like because it's a big change. But typically a lot of those celebration events, or I don't know if a lot of other people have seen it, it's very same crowd because they're just deeply invested. But you'll always have a small percentage of new people, and that's where you got to capture them to get some of, and get their information, keep them more involved when you do see them at events.
Yeah, I think that's where the post cleanup celebrations are more effective because they're right there. They've just participated. They know what they'd be getting into if they join and they'd like to help lead a cleanup in the future. Any other volunteer events that you have coming up. So in that sense, compared to our year-end recognition, I would really like to move to the post cleanups, but with 40 something sites and we cover several hundred square miles of creeks, and that's a lot of logistics to try to get the celebration together. So
Any other questions or ideas? I
I just-
shared the fundraising resource guide in the chat, by the way.
I also just
Thank
want to
you.
say thank you for all the great ideas because I feel like I need to do more now, and I think this is great. I think all these great ideas for giving awards and things at the end really keeps the volunteers engaged. So I really appreciate everybody's ideas and input.
I have one more really quick one. We've had some good luck with the communities actually doing the post celebration for the participants. So that's another option.
Alright.
Could you elaborate on that? Like, who in the community?
So we actually work with the service department a lot of times. And or the clerk, the village clerk. And we'll tell them, we'll ask them, do you want to do a cleanup? Because a lot of times we're doing it as their public involvement for their EPA permits. They have to do one public involvement event. So they'll advertise it. And then some communities, they feel like they really want to do something for the people that do a cleanup. And they will try and work with us to figure out how many people are going to go. Sometimes we actually have groups like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, and then they'll buy, some burgers or some sub sandwiches or whatever, but they'll take care of that part of it. They'll just totally take care of that after part.
Cool.
Does that,
Thank you.
did that answer your question?
Mhm.
Great ideas. Anything else? Okay. Well, next month, the organizer discussion is going to have a guest speaker. It's going to be the digital communications manager at American Rivers. So she's going to be speaking about Facebook, social media, emailing, all of that. And I think she's going to come with a lot of really useful ideas and tips, and also some metrics like quantifiable data, so you can kind of see where you should be falling or may want to fall compared to American Rivers, and with like the response rate. And I know that's always something that we're trying to get better at, with emails and open and click rates and all of that kind of stuff. So whether it's your first time diving into that or if you're well versed, I think this will be a great conversation to ask one of the experts at American Rivers on how to more effectively communicate and recruit volunteers. And it'll be great timing because it'll be just before a lot of our fall cleanup events. So yeah, so we'll be sending out that RCP form probably in the next week or two. So be on the lookout for that. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.